For the first time in 5 years, the Wellesley Raiders girls basketball team would not have all-time leading scorer Blake Dietrich to rely on. And so even before this season began, the Raiders were immediately being overlooked as a true playoff contender. And that was all the motivation this team needed to prove everyone wrong.
I would be walking around school and people would say, "Are you going to be good this year without Blake?" And it was always just like, yeah, we really have to, so we don't have a choice. And I mean, we love Blake, but it is frustrating when people underestimate you. But I find it fun to be the underdog. I find it fun to kind of stick it to people when they don't really expect you to be good. I think that's really fun.
People kind of looked down on us. It definitely gave me motivation to kind of shut them up. And people just comparing us to the previous teams with Blake, it made me really want to be like, okay, well, we're just as good. Even without Blake, we are awesome. We're good players. Just because we lost Blake doesn't mean we're going to be bad. And it kind of was a personal kind of insult to me, kind of a slap in the face, because I feel like we're all good players, and I don't want to be compared to Blake forever.
You always want to root for the underdog, and in some ways we were the underdog, and in some ways we weren't. But I think that people sort of just expected, usually Wellesley girls basketball is pretty good, and this year they kind of weren't thinking we were going to be good, so you wanted to prove it to them. And we wanted to prove it to them that we could do it without Blake and Mary Louise and Tiara and everyone.
At least for me, I know it was definitely motivation. Personally, I was a little offended that we were overlooked and that we were still a team, and one person, though Blake was a great player, we were still a team and we could still be just as good if we worked harder. So it was motivation for me, and I know other team members, to play harder and to prove that we were still in it.
Absolutely, it definitely was. And there were Townsman articles being like, what are they going to do without Blake? And we were all like, we can do it without Blake, we don't need her. And so it was definitely motivation, but we never really talked about we knew we were motivated, but we never talked about what we were going to do to make this motivation a reality and put it into action.
Well, it's funny, every year you lose a ton of kids. Certainly over the past 2, 3, 4, 5 years, we've lost some great players who meant a lot to our program, but it happens every year, and you have to regroup. I didn't know what to expect. I knew we were going to have to do a lot of learning, but we still had some seniors and returning varsity players, and we hoped to do the best we could do. I did think it would take a little longer to get things done. So, losing Blake, certainly Tiara and a bunch of those girls was tough, but you got to move on every year.
Now, with 3 new captains, Caroline Harrington, Shannon Magpiong, and Grace Miller, ready to take the lead, their message this season was clear. It was time to move on. Ready to prove they could play any opponent, the Raiders would open up their first home game against the Newton South Tigers, a team who just a season ago had an impressive 21-2 record. In the first half, things just weren't going Wellesley's way, and with the Tigers quickly taking the lead, frustration began to set in.
First of all, Newton South was at the beginning of the year, and their 2 programs, we had been going back and forth for a couple of years with very good, very highly competitive games, and both teams were not expected to do as well this upcoming season. So it was a high-intensity game that maybe if it was played at the end of the game, maybe not as high intensity, but for us at that time, at that moment, that was a huge game.
Our first 2 games were all really close, and they were exciting. We realized that it was going to be a fun season, and we were in it, and that we could do this without Blake. And close games are just always much more fun, and it got us all excited for this great season ahead of us.
After scoring 19 points the whole first half, the Raiders' offense would come alive, scoring 19 more in the last 6 minutes of the third quarter alone. With clutch baskets by Shannon Magpiong and Grace Miller, the Tigers see their 12-point lead quickly disappear, forcing them to take a timeout. As an intense third ends on another great play by Grace Miller, Raiders go into the fourth with a 2-point lead, 36-34.
Newton South was very motivating. We've played them multiple times, and it's always been a really interesting game. There's always a lot of hype about it. So we were very motivated. It was the first very good team that we played, and we wanted to win, and I think we would do anything to win that game. It was the first challenge that we were facing as a team. And I remember I knew I had to step up. I knew this was the time that I had to prove that I would be someone that could be there for the rest of the season, and someone who, as a junior, needed to take a place of ownership for what was going on in the game. So I think that it was just the first time where all of us as captains really thought, okay, now I need to bring the team up, and I need to increase the intensity.
Starting the fourth quarter, the Raiders would go on a 5-0 run, but the Tigers still won't go away and retake the lead. But not for long, as Sophia Mavromatis drains a three-pointer, and the Raiders hang on to win in an intense comeback victory.
That was when I really knew that we could come together as a team and that we really were still competitors and we're still someone to be feared in the conference. And that win really gave me fuel just to work harder, and it really motivated me and it made me more optimistic.
Kind of a blur, not one of our best games, but definitely not our worst. I mean, it was a good win, but then after the game, Coach Siri reminded us that they aren't as good of a team as they have been in the past, so it was kind of like saddening to be reminded of that. And it just, even though we won, we didn't win by that much, so it kind of reminded us that we had a lot of work to do and get better.
As the season would go on, injuries and challenges would arise. But for the Raiders, that just meant work harder as a team. That determination was quickly tested when tri-captain Shannon Magpion was injured for most of the season.
Shannon wasn't on the court, but I never felt like I lost her presence on our team. She was an amazing leader off the court. We'd kind of call her another coach because she offered a interesting perspective, because she could see from what our coaches were seeing, and yet she knew how to translate it to us better. So when our coach would say, like, you're not talking, and as players you think, oh, I'm talking, and she would say, I know that you think you're talking, I know where you've been, you're not talking. You need to just say things all the time. I can hear you from where I am, and you're not doing it. And it was really interesting because she really stepped into both roles, and she had a great effect on our team, and she was great. She came to every practice and was always there and was working, and I know I've been injured and it's not easy, and she did a great job of being an injured player.
It sucked, really. Just sort of hearing, my feet had been hurting me for a while, but I didn't really want to go to the doctors because I sort of knew that it was just not going to be good news. So then finally going to the doctors and hearing that, it was just like, I don't know, a big bummer.
Shannon was definitely a very essential player and part of the team, and her absence was definitely felt, but she did a great job supporting us on the bench, and she really motivated us to work harder. But also she's very tall, so we definitely felt the absence height-wise.
She's one of my good friends. It was tough to see her go, and we missed her, but she did a great job leading from the sideline and still got us all really pumped up before games and gave us great advice. And it was good to have a player like watching from the sidelines, because she sees the game well and knows what's going on, so she gave great advice, even though she wasn't on the court with us.
First of all, losing Shannon was a big loss for us. She was that glue at the beginning of the season that we needed to pull us together. A senior who is a captain, who knows the play. She's a very smart player. She was the person who took the ball out of bounds, which is a huge position, because that person has to know what everybody's supposed to do and kind of calm things down, be that on-court presence that you need. So losing her shook us up a bit, and we had to figure it out. And she did everything she could. She toughed it out. Her legs were clearly very bad, and that it was tough to fill her role in that role. And I think that probably set us back as a team, probably a couple weeks in our development as we found other people to take over that role.
It was really unfortunate. We lost a lot of players due to injuries. Caroline with her concussion, Claire with her concussion also, Shannon with her heels. But that just really, a lot of players were able to step up, especially Lee. She really was a presence on the court. She was a great offensive rebounder especially, and she's tall. And then Lexi also as a freshman, she definitely had a big role to fill, and she did it pretty successfully, I'd say.
We definitely had to not have any superstars, but really have a very deep bench, and everyone knew that, and we worked hard in practice, getting everyone comfortable taking the shot, everyone ready to play. And I think the entire team was very into the game, really wanted to be in the game and step up. And I think Charlotte and Lee both knew that as a junior, they were ready. I think Lee was very ready to be on varsity. She was very excited to, step up into it. And Charlotte last year didn't have a big role to play, and this year she felt the exact same thing. And it's fun having a bigger role in the game. And I think that Charlotte did a ton in the off season to get better, and Lee's just so instinctive and just moves so well that it was a natural thing to happen for them to step up.
Well, injuries, as every coach will say, is part of the game. And you tell the players over and over again, you have to play as hard as you can. You have to prepare like a starter. You have to practice like you are going to be, the starter of the game or one of the last 5 players, in a big game. And you say that over and over and over again. And a lot of times that doesn't come true for a team. That you can get through a season with 5 or 7 players. But this year it was that if you were not ready to come off the bench when someone got injured, we were not going to win. And it was just one of those years that kids did get injured and kids on the bench did get their time, that it was very critical that they pulled through, and they did it. And once a couple people got their shot to get on the floor based on an injury, I think other kids started to realize, coach is serious. It does sometimes happen that you get an opportunity because somebody is injured, or not that you have an opportunity, but you need to be ready because the team needs you, and it's going to happen.
At 8-2, it may have looked like everything was going the Raiders' way. But after suffering a blowout loss to their Bay State Conference rivals Natick, the players realized that while the loss would be a bitter reminder to them, they could use it as motivation to make improvements for the better.
The day after our Natick game, we had all come to practice, and the away Natick game, and we were like, we are going to be killed this practice. That was the worst game that we've played. And it was surprising. Siri was very calm. We went to the gym and we worked out, and then when she brought us into the gym and we all sat down with giant pieces of paper, and she said, we need to talk about goals. And we wrote down what goals we wanted to achieve, and then we came back together as a team and talked about how we were going to reach those, and I think that was completely the turning point in the season. We had those goals and we talked about what worked as a team and what motivated us, and we talked about who we were as people on the team, and we found we love each other so much that practice, even Siri, we would get off topic at the single thing that was off topic, we're gone. So we found that we needed to focus on something and focus very permanently on it. And from that point on, Siri would bring a sign into practice every day and it would say what our goal of the day was. And it helped us so much in focusing on that goal and taking it step by step until we could build off of everything. And it was incredible. And we had our list of goals for the season, our list of goals for every practice, and we hung them up every day.
That was really big because it was just everyone sort of giving input and everyone saying, okay, yes, this is what we want to do. Like, we've decided we all need to do this in order to achieve our goals.
Like I said before, you need to be unified to a certain goal in order to achieve it, and so we all put our heads together and figured out what exactly it was we wanted to achieve. And it really was a big turning point for us, because then after that loss to Natick, we went on to beat Braintree, Natick, Walpole again, and then it was just all uphill from there.
Here we are kind of in the middle ground. What do we want to do? As a team, what is it that you want to achieve, and are you serious about achieving that? Everybody has goals, but do you really have goals that you're all really focused on? And I think they surprised themselves learning how much their teammates really, truly were committed to winning.
With last year's heartbreaking playoff loss to Braintree still a bitter reminder for the players, the undefeated Womps were coming into Larson Gym, and there was only one thing on their mind.
It was all about revenge. I mean, we just wanted to beat them because of last year. Losing to them last year was terrible, and we didn't want that to happen again, ever.
Siri always tells us don't think about revenge, but it's hard for me to let go on things. And I definitely, I mean, not as much, it's revenge, but it's also just, I wanted to prove ourselves, and I knew that this would be the game to prove ourselves, to beat the undefeated team who knew was going to go far in tournament, and to just prove that we could do it. And I think that it was proving to others, but it was really proving to ourselves and showing that how hard we'd worked as a team to get to that point.
Obviously we want to beat every team, but one of them we wanted to beat them because they had been undefeated coming into it, and we also lost to them last year in the playoffs, so we really just wanted revenge, and we wanted to just like stick it to them that they didn't really lose many players that last year, and we obviously lost Blake, so it was a big change for us, but we wanted to prove that we're the better team.
All season long, the Womps were dominating their opponents, averaging 60 points a game. But they hadn't faced the Raiders' defense, which so easily exposes any team's weaknesses, making even an unbeaten team like Braintree look confused and unprepared.
We talked about practicing and building a foundation, and now it's time. You got to bring it. You got to bring all the confidence you have. You're the ones who've been the Bay State League Conference champs for all these years. You're the ones who should be ready to go, and that's when we talked about having our Wellesley swagger. You got to go out there and own the court and don't stop and until the final whistle. And they did. It just all came together.
While the defense held the Womps to only 35 points, Grace Miller once again was dominating. With virtually every game leading the team in points, this one may have been her season's best.
When I stepped in this year, if I was tired, I wasn't tired. If I felt I was having an off game, I wasn't having an off game. Siri told me, if you miss a shot, keep on shooting. It's your job as a leader to not show it, and I think I knew I had to step in, and it definitely had an effect on my game, and it definitely brought my game to a different level that I was not at past years.
Grace is a fantastic captain. She is the best at getting us all really motivated before games. She just is so focused and ready to play, and just loves basketball more than anything, and she just gets so excited, and watching her get so excited gets everyone else excited, especially when she does something well on the court. She gets really excited for herself, and it just is, I love Cam.
She motivated us. She was just a great teammate. She obviously was an amazing player on the court, but off the court, she made us work harder in practice. She, if any of us were nervous, she would really put things into perspective for us. And she just made us work harder and made us want it more, and she was an amazing captain.
Late in the fourth quarter, Caroline Harrington's three-pointer would put the game well out of reach. This time around, there would be no Braintree comeback.
I remember after the game just hugging Sophia and being like, no more nightmares, just happy that we wouldn't have to look back on losing to Braintree ever again. And it was just great being the first team to beat them and just proving ourselves to everyone who doubted us. And it really was the turning point in our season. So it was awesome.
With each win, the team's chemistry was growing stronger, and the Raiders looked to carry that momentum into their next matchup against the Newton North Tigers. With two talented teams facing each other, the Tigers thought they had the Raiders right where they wanted them, boxing out Grace Miller in the paint. But instead, the depth and talent of this team's offense shined through, as guard Caroline Harrington's clutch shooting was the difference in the close game.
That was the great thing about our team, is that we didn't have superstars, so as soon as they started doubling down on me and I was able to swing it out, that was key. And the fact that Caroline was there and she was always ready to take the shot, that was so important. And the same thing with Sophia the rest of the year. And Caroline just shot fantastically, and she's a great three-point shooter, and I love that about her.
She always was trying to get people on task, and always had input, because she sees the court well, she knows the sport well, she knows basketball, so it's good to have a captain that is able to give you as much feedback as your coach can.
Well, I've definitely had to step up this season, and having such a great leader as Blake, those are some pretty big shoes to fill, and I knew I couldn't really fill them to the extent that she did, but I tried to motivate the team to be our best and just keep everyone focused during practice and just do the best I could to be a good leader for the team.
With the Raiders up by 4, the Tigers make the mistake of leaving Sophia Mavromanis wide open, making it a 7-point Wellesley lead. Late in the fourth quarter, Caroline Harrington once again drills a 3, and the Raiders pull away with another hard-fought victory, winning 47-39.
She hit a lot of big three-point shots, and we really needed it that game. And it was a huge game for us. It was after a stretch of a couple of pretty tough games, and she had a lot of clutch shots, and she gave us the momentum we needed to beat them.
Caroline is a great basketball player, and she came through offensively in that game. She could have come through offensively in many games. It's just as a point guard and an off guard, she and Sophia really both kind of ran the point and ran the show. You kind of have to do what you have to do to win. And on that day, she had to hit that outside because they were crashing in on the boards. They had some pretty athletic people inside, and they were going to give them the shots. They were going to give Sophia a little bit, but mostly Caroline the shots, and they challenged her, and Caroline won.
With only 2 games left in the regular season, the Raiders had worked extremely hard to get to 15-3. And early in the game, the team would get all the motivation they needed with the return of tri-captain Shannon Magpion, who had been injured since early December.
It gave us a lot of energy. We're really happy to have her back after her being out for majority of the season. It gave us a lift, and now we're ready to start our real season and hopefully go far in tournament.
It felt very good. The past few weeks I've just wanted to run, at least run on the court and just get out there. But I mean, it felt obviously different than it did at the beginning of the season because I'm not where I was, but I'm still excited to be at least on the court.
I'm so happy she's back. It's been different without her. I've been playing basketball with her since 4th grade, and it's just weird not having her play, and it's just great to have her on the court. She's such a great voice off the court, but it's great to have her on the court and contributing as well, and her doing well is just makes me happy as her friend and co-captain.
While Milton tried unsuccessfully to come away with an upset victory, it was Sophia Mavromatis' team-leading 18 points that stood out. With another solid game offensively by Sophia, it was clear that even as a sophomore, she was only going to get better.
She's definitely grown up a lot. As a freshman, she was a baby, and we all kind of made fun of her for it, baby Sophia. And she was really immature last year. And this year, everyone could tell that she had her game face on from the get-go. She just wanted to step up and try to be a leader, even as a sophomore. As a returning varsity player, she really contributed to the team, and really, when Grace or Shannon or I couldn't, she really motivated everyone. And it was great to have her. And obviously, she's an amazing player, just with her steals and her shots. So it was good to have her, especially with the absence of Blake.
She's a sophomore. A sophomore is young, and sometimes it's unfair for a kid as a sophomore to come in and have all that weight on her as a point guard, as a second-year varsity player. But Sophia loves basketball, and she wants to do well, and she did. She turned it around this year, and if she didn't, again, we wouldn't have been able to pull it all together.
She likes to do fancy moves, and this year Coach Siri, but the team as well, tried to help her tone down her moves and just make them efficient and not so showy, and she did a great job with that. And you could tell even when she was out on the court and she did one, she'd look over and be like, oh shoot, sorry, yeah, she came a long way, and you better watch out. She's going to be good.
After the game, the players talked about how important the win was, but that as a team, they wanted more.
No one really expected it from us, which is an even better feeling. Bay State Champs is awesome in itself, but that we overcame everyone's expectations, and that we kind of came together as a team. It's good.
We didn't play our best game, but we're all just really happy that we're now Bay State Conference champs, and so we're happy, but we're not satisfied. So this has to be the worst game that we play, and we're just going to have to improve from here.
With the last game ever to be played at Larson Gym, it was only fitting that the Raiders would face Natick, the same team that had pushed them to work harder, the same team that at that moment was sharing the Bay State Conference title with Wellesley. But for the Natick Red and Blue, they quickly found out this was not the same team they had beaten nearly a month ago.
It was a great game, especially since it was Natick, which is always a really big rival for us, and we really wanted to beat them after they had beaten us so badly last time we played them. And the last game at Larson Gym was a big memory for all of us. We all had spent so many hours in there, and it was a great play, so we wanted to send it out in style, and I think we did that.
We always want to beat Natick, and especially since they beat us at the beginning of the season. And it was for either for us to win the Bay State Conference or to share the title, and obviously we wouldn't want to share it.
Last time these two teams met, Caroline Harrington could only play limited minutes due to an injury. But this time, she was back in the starting lineup and healthy. As a result, Natick's Lexi Gifford was held to only 5 first-half points. With back-to-back solid games by Sophia Mavromatis and a season-high 5 3-pointers, this time Natick had no answers.
She became our point guard, and she had to run the plays, and she had to know what was going on the court at all times, and it was a big role for her to fill, and I think she did a great job of it. I think she definitely, at some points, would sacrifice herself for the team, and she would know she was never hogged the ball, never did anything like that, was always trying to distribute it, was always trying to, I mean, sometimes our coach would just be like, just shoot, like, you can do it, because she just forgot that, I mean, she was always looking for the opening, and I mean, she's part of the reason that I scored so much this year is just she always knew where to find me. And I mean, she stepped into some big shoes this year, and I think she did a great job filling them. I mean, it's a lot of responsibility to take on, and she definitely, I talked to her off season, and she's so motivated, and she just wants to go so far with the team, and I love it. Because often you don't get sophomores who are that invested in the team, and she's just completely invested and just really wants to be that leader.
Well, Coach Siri helped me to remember just to keep it simple, and throughout the game, like passing, running through the offense, I knew that if I did what she said, she has a lot of experience, that the offense would just come to me, and it's important not to force it, and a lot of practice.
That was probably the most perfect game we've ever played. I mean, we had mistakes and stuff, but it was a great way to end a career at the old school and like close the gym, just close our season, close our home games, and Shannon hitting the 3 at the end. That was pretty awesome. I mean, I don't regret anything about that game. I couldn't have done anything better. None of us could. It was just one of the best games ever. I want to be remembered as the team that, not the team that like suffered without Blake, the team that like inspired people to be as, like get better and keep working hard even without someone as great as her, and that like even without Blake and whatever, we still did it. Like we had a very successful season. We turned ourselves around from like rock bottom, we climbed our way up, and we were Bay State Conference champs, and that's how I want to be remembered.
A team that leaves it all out on the floor and works hard every second of every game, and to also be respectful of other teams.
I want to be remembered as a member of a team who came from behind and exceeded everyone's expectations because we were a team. And that's really all there is to it. We all came together so well, and really made a big difference.
I remember last year, I was talking with Mary Louise, or maybe it was 2 years ago, and she was like, and we were talking, like, I wonder what our record's gonna be. I wonder if we're even gonna make tournament. I wonder, like, I bet your record's gonna be 10-10. You're just gonna make tournament. And it was just so, like, just everyone thought we weren't gonna be good, and there was no way we could come back from losing those 2 big players, but it just shows that like a team can be a team without like one big star.
I want to be remembered through the little kids that come to our game every game. I mean, they're our biggest fans, and I think that is the most amazing thing when we are coming into the gym and they all line up and they want to high-five us, and I think that would be the greatest way to be remembered, was to build up a program where all these little girls, it's so exciting because they want to play basketball. And I think if I had someone to look up to that much as a little kid and I was that excited about the sport, I have no idea where I could be now. And I want to inspire that in others. And I think it's so exciting to be remembered that way and to have a girls' team to be so exciting, because I think that girls' sports often get unrecognized, and you see it with basketball. I mean, the boys' team has been fantastic the past few years, and they've really built themselves up, but girls' sports often get ignored, and I would love to be remembered in that sense, that in the future, you know, all these little kids that have been coming to our games are going to become great basketball players, and they're going to continue the program, and they're going to keep up the name for us, and we'll forever be remembered as, oh yeah, Wellesley, you know, you got to watch out for them.
As the number 4 seed in the Division I tournament, the Raiders would begin the first round of the playoffs in their brand new gym, playing a team they had never faced before, the Madison Park Cardinals. Right from the start, the Raiders took control of the game and never looked back. Just missing a triple-double, Grace Miller was relentless in the paint and on the boards, something she has done all season long.
It's great having such a tall player, first of all. I mean, that's always great. And it's also just awesome because she's just really motivating. Just the way she talks, it just makes you want to play the best just for her because she's so just awesome. And I loved having her as a fellow captain because she was able to say things that I wasn't, and she's such a strong player that I'm going to miss her so much next year.
If she didn't have the ball, she had 2 people on her. If she had the ball, she had 3 people on her. She powered through, and she just came through big for us. But she was also a team player. She likes to pass. She likes to include everybody. She's one of the fastest players on the team. You know, her coming through, I would be lying if it didn't mean a lot in terms of us winning the championship this year. I expected her to come through. I don't know if I expected that much of her, but you know, it was huge for us as a team.
Gam is just, she's awesome. She just always brightens the day and always gets you focused. I know that sometimes when during pregame when I was out, I like to get off topic a little bit, and she would always just bring me home and say, okay, focus. I'm like, okay. And she always just made everyone ready for the game despite what was going on elsewhere. It was just game time, let's go.
While the offense scorched the Cardinals all night with fast break points, it was the suffocating Raiders defense led once again by Caroline Harrington that was a key factor in that victory.
I'm so glad that I'm not a guard, because in practice I would just see our guards and it was just oh God, you gotta face Caroline. I mean, she had so much heart on defense, it was crazy. She just worked so hard, and that's what defense is, and if you can get that, that is amazing, and Caroline definitely got it. And we would have discussions on defense, and Coach Siri at some points would just go, you know what, I'm just going to hand the mic over to Caroline. And Caroline, talk about what you do and what motivates you. And she always talked about it's just so great when you put your heart into it and you feel it come together. And I mean, she was never really, I mean, she's such a scrappy player, but it was so funny because, you know, teams would see us and Caroline's this girl who's so tiny, but I mean, she works so hard, she puts muscle on trying to become bigger, and she just can't. And you know, I think that you underestimate her when you first see her, and she's just such an amazing defensive player that it's so funny watching her play and just watching the other team's face, just, oh goodness, can't just drive right by her.
She absolutely was one of the best defenders. In practice, I would hope that she guarded me so I would be able to become better through that. Her defensive efforts made me want to play better defense, which is not my best. It's not my strength. But she was a great leader, and even when she had her concussion, she was still supporting us on the bench and made us want to work harder and kept us focused on our game and our goals.
She is fierce and she wants to win, and there is nobody that's going to question that on any day. She is focused, she is ready to go, and the kids fed off that intensity. And defensively, she didn't care how big you were, literally. You know, some of the kids probably had 50 pounds on her and 6 inches, or figuratively, if you were supposed to be the all-star, MVP of the league or whatever, she was going to shut you down, she was going to take on that challenge, and then that allowed the rest of the team to do what they had to do and feed off that.
Just seconds into the third, Caroline Harrington's third three-pointer of the night would quickly double the lead to 34-17, leaving the Cardinals no chance to regroup as the Raiders would coast to a first-round victory over Madison Park and would go on to face Quincy in the quarterfinals. All season long, the talent on this team was unmistakable. As the Raiders hoped to go further into the playoffs, their run was sadly cut short in the quarterfinals as they lost the number 5 seed Quincy Presidents. Yet through that painful loss, the players knew this was a game they could learn from, as they work even harder towards a better next season and the many more to come.
They ended up just shooting a lot of threes, and that was our downfall, and I think we got frustrated with ourselves and frustrated with the refs. So I think in the future we have to, even when things aren't going right, we need to learn to stay focused, and we just kind of cracked under the pressure, so I think we would definitely benefit from learning how to fix that somehow.
I know that when we lost, I was definitely very sad and disappointed about it, but the next day I was in the gym, I'm still just every day in the gym working hard. Like, that loss really motivated me. I don't want to have to feel what I felt during the Braintree game and this year the Quincy game. And next year I definitely want to go farther, and a lot of hard work, hopefully, will lead to that.
We didn't really start becoming that team till halfway through the season. And so what it's taught us is that we're going to start in the off season. We're going to start our season 6 months before it starts. And we're going to start working 6 months before it starts so that when we get on the court the first day, we're working as hard as we worked halfway through the season.
Looking back on the Raiders' inspiring season, you realize that sometimes it's not all about winning. True, 18 wins is amazing. But what's truly inspiring is when you believe in yourself, set goals, and work hard to reach them. And above all, to never give up on yourself and others. When you rise above the challenges, that is what makes you stronger. This is Raider Pride, and these Raiders are just getting started.
I cannot talk enough about how much I love my team this year. I mean, it's my freshman year, I don't think we lost a game. And it was great, but this year we worked our butts off, and we had so much heart, and that's what was so amazing about it, was that we didn't have anything given to us, and no one expected anything of us. I mean, even Coach Sherry is such a positive person. She says, we can win any game, but she said, you know what, at the beginning of this year, I had no idea what to expect. And now that we're here, I want it all. I want you guys to get as far as you can. And I mean, we had so much pride every time we check a box off. It was the greatest thing ever, and we just wanted that BSC championship because, I mean, Siri posted halfway through the season, in order to become the BSC champions, you have to win. You can't lose any more than 3 more games. And we said, okay, I can't lose 3 more games. Well, you know what, we're gonna lose 0 more games. And every time we would list our record and we'd be like, we haven't lost a game since. And I just can't put it into words. It was fantastic. When people would bring it up with me, I couldn't stop talking about how, the feeling of just everything coming together and everything just working and feeling that hard work. And when everyone would come to practice, we would hit the top of the door. I don't know, outside the door it says Pride above the door, and we'd hit it. And as soon as you hit that, you weren't allowed to think about anything else other than basketball for the rest of practice. And everyone really kept to that, and everyone was focused on basketball the entire time, and it was so exciting to share my love of something with so many other people.
I'm so proud. It was so much fun watching us all come together and achieve something great, and I'll never forget the season.
No one really expected anything from us, and despite that, we found it in ourselves to work hard, and we found it in ourselves to want to be the best we could be. Everyone telling us we are not a team to be watched because of Blake's absence, Tiara's absence, a lot of seniors leaving last year. I think we really proved to everyone that we're a team to still be reckoned with.
I'm extremely proud. I definitely wish we could have gone farther with the season, but I'm so happy to have played on this team. I love everyone on the team. Even Coach Siri said that if she could write a book about coaching, she would write about this season, which was an amazing compliment from her, having coached a lot of teams in the past, even a state championship team. She would choose to write about us and us overcoming so much.
Just do a quick cheer, okay? I want you guys to enjoy this. Congratulations to the senior. There's no better way to send the seniors out like this. No better way to send Larson.